On August 26, 2024, the manager of the 63 apartments located in Houston, Texas, called the police to report the discovery of something terrible. According to the man, an unknown individual had approached him to say that there was a woman's body in one of the apartments. When the police arrived at the scene, they were faced with a shocking sight. The victim was identified as Pandey. The woman had installed a surveillance system in her apartment shortly before, and thanks to it, the police were able to catch the perpetrator. Pandey was born in Nepal, a country located in South Asia with a population of over 30 million people, known for its temples and the Himalayan mountain range, home to Mount Everest. According to sources, her parents were divorced, and she did not have a good relationship with her father. In 2021, Muna's mother encouraged her to move to the United States. Her mother had some relatives living in Houston, Texas, who were willing to support Muna when she moved. Additionally, due to the issues Muna had with her father, her mother thought it would be better for her to leave the country, as her father was described as very violent. After arriving in the United States, Muna enrolled in a university to study nursing. She was described as a dedicated student with great empathy. Muna balanced her studies with a job she secured in the afternoons at a restaurant. Later, she changed jobs and began working at a clothing store. Eventually, she managed to rent an apartment in the 63-unit complex in Houston, and for a while she shared it with a friend who later moved out. Muna then began living alone in the apartment. In 2023, Muna confided something frightening to her best friend, a man named Kunwar, who was living in Boston at the time. According to Kunwar, Muna told him she was very scared because she felt someone was following her. Muna reportedly said she saw a man's head watching her through her apartment window. At the time, she contacted the police, who quickly sent officers to the scene, but after a brief search, they were unable to find the suspect. The officers thought the man might be a resident of a neighboring apartment, but they couldn't simply go knocking on doors looking for him. Moreover, Muna couldn't provide a precise description of the man, as he ran away the moment she looked at the window, leaving her no time to see him clearly. After this incident, Kunwar, Muna's best friend, suggested that she install a surveillance system in her apartment. That way, if the man returned to spy on her, he would be caught on camera and later identified by authorities. With the surveillance system in place, Muna began feeling safer, but remained apprehensive. What no one could have imagined was that a year later, Muna would become the victim of a brutal crime, a crime that, thanks to the surveillance system she had installed, would be solved quickly. On Saturday, August 24, 2024, Muna was supposed to meet with some friends. However, she didn't show up at the agreed location, didn't reply to messages sent by her friends, and didn't answer their calls either. The same happened with the manager of the store where Muna worked. The manager, very concerned because Muna hadn't shown up for work, decided to message and call her but received no response. According to him, earlier that day, he and Muna had been messaging to coordinate her work schedule when suddenly she stopped responding. At first, the manager didn't think much of it, assuming Muna might be busy with something else, but when she failed to show up for work, he began to worry. Despite Muna's unusual behavior and her friends and manager being unable to contact her, no one went to the police to report the situation. Only 2 days later, on August 26th, the manager of the 63 apartment complex contacted the police to report that a man had told him there was a woman's body in one of the apartments. When the police arrived at the scene, the manager unlocked the door of the mentioned apartment, where they found Muna's body lying on the bed with multiple gunshot wounds. She had 3 wounds in her torso and 1 at the back of her neck. The forensic team later determined that Muna had been dead for at least 2 days, meaning her life was taken on August 24th. The officers who analyzed the crime scene found no signs of forced entry or break-in at the apartment, leading them to conclude that the victim likely knew the perpetrator. A neighbor told detectives that on the night of August 24th, between 8:30 and 9 o'clock p.m., he heard some strange noises coming from Muna's apartment. When asked by detectives if he had heard gunshots, the neighbor said the sounds didn't resemble firearm discharges. While one police team spoke with neighbors to gather as much information as possible, another team reviewed footage from the surveillance cameras Muna had installed a year earlier. The recorded footage provided officers with the most crucial clue in identifying the perpetrator. The footage shows that on August 24th, around 8:40 p.m., Muna was in front of her apartment with some shopping bags when suddenly a man armed with a pistol pointed the weapon at her and forced her to enter the apartment. The man also entered the apartment and about an hour later left the scene holding one of the bags. Authorities released this footage to the public across various media platforms, urging anyone who recognized the man in the video to contact the police as quickly as possible. 2 days later, Muna's former boss, who owns the restaurant where she used to work, called the police claiming to have information. According to him, the man in the footage was a regular customer at the restaurant and he knew Muna from there. A woman also called the police, stating that she had information about this man. According to her, there was a profile on a sugar daddy dating site with a photo of the man seen in the footage released by the police. She said she had gone on a date with the man about 12 years ago. With this new information, the police were able to identify the perpetrator of the crime against Muna Pandey. It was Bobby Singh Shah, a 51-year-old man of Indian origin. Bobby was arrested on September 4th during a traffic stop in northwest Houston. He was still wearing the same clothes, which were stained with blood, as seen on the security camera footage when he left the victim's apartment. While searching Bobby's vehicle, officers found a firearm, possibly the same one used in the crime. Bobby was formally charged with the crime against Muna Pandey and sent to the Harris County Jail. His defense requested bail so he could await trial in freedom, but the request was denied. According to authorities, Bobby has an extensive criminal record, including theft and threats. The motive for the crime is still unclear, but based on the information gathered so far, authorities believe that after Bobby met Muna at the restaurant where she worked, he began stalking her. It is highly likely that the man who followed Muna a year earlier and was also seen by her at the window of her apartment was Bobby. Following this reasoning, it can be said that Bobby became obsessed with Muna. He likely attempted something with her, but she did not reciprocate, leading him to commit the crime. It's worth noting that Bobby had a profile on a sugar daddy dating site where older men seek younger women by offering material goods and money. This clearly shows that Bobby was interested in younger women, and Muna may not have been the only one he stalked. There is no set date for the criminal's trial yet, but under Texas law, if convicted, Bobby could face the death penalty. Muna Pandey's family is devastated by what happened. Her mother had insisted she move to the United States for her safety, but sadly, the worst occurred. Muna's friends started a GoFundMe campaign to help bring her mother from Nepal to the United States and to cover the funeral expenses for her only daughter. Thanks to the funds raised through this campaign, Anita Adhikari, Muna's mother, was able to travel to the United States to bid her final farewell to her daughter during a Hindu funeral held on September 9th.